Today's children, younger generations, need a guide, not a signpost for their lives. My dear friends, today's first reading on the Gospel speak quite a lot about man-woman relationship and about marriage. We have a lot of reflections and insights about marriage, but I think I don't know whether it is fitting to speak about it here, because neither I nor you are married. However, we live with a married people. So it's good to know the nobility, the sacredness of marriage. And the first reading speaks about the creation of the woman, the Eve, the first woman from the bones, from the ribs of Adam. Oftentimes, the male chauvinistic world wants to justify that a woman is always inferior to man or the man is superior, quoting this particular text. But in the same book of Genesis, it is said, another narration of creation of man and woman, it says God created humanity, male and female. So it has been put together. God has created humanity, male and female together. In the words of Jesus also, from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. So there are two versions in the Genesis, but of course the male chauvinistic world highlighted only this particular narration, first Adam and then Eve, in order to show that how he is superior. In fact, when God makes human person, first he made man, and some would say it's actually only a trial version. The actual version comes later, that is Eve. So she is more perfect than Adam. And also God preferred to take the bone from the ribs, and some authors say it also has its significance. God did not choose a bone from the leg or feet. Had it been done, perhaps we can say that Eve is lower, inferior to Adam, or nor he did take a bone from the head, so that we might say that Eve is superior to Adam. But God took the bone almost from the middle of the body, and a bone which protects the heart. So Eve, the woman, is equal to man, and she is the one who can protect the heart of the man, and one who can complement what is lacking in him. Interestingly, it says, God found him, Adam, alone, and this word alone is actually loneliness. Being alone and being lonely both are different. Being alone and being lonely both are different. One can be in a crowd but still can be lonely. Similarly, no, that's what G.K. Chesterton said. Modern man lives a lonely life in a crowd. Modern man lives a lonely life in a crowd. If we see the metro rails and bus, the peak hours, people are so crowded, and we may touch against each other and shaking and falling on each other, but we live in a lonely world. Similarly, a person may be alone, but he or she may be thinking about so many things, but he and she is in a company. So being alone is different from being lonely, and a person who realizes that I am the child of God can never ever feel lonely in his or her life, because God is there to accompany. So Jesus saw till the creation of the woman, God was giving company to him. He was friendly, and he could find the companionship in him. And when he gave the woman, and God's intention was that both complement each other and live a happy life and live a life that is worthy of being God's children. So the point is, today's marriage, both need to see one another as their complementary, not superior or inferior. And today in the modern world, how many marriages break very easily just because the lack of realization. And very often when we fix up marriage for boy and girl, we look whether they are educationally equal, their salary, their family status, and height, color, complexion, all those things we are matching. But we are not thinking about their emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. And because of the lack of emotional intelligence and maturity, lots of problems from the day one onwards. It's quite interesting to see, or even cannot understand. The boy and girl may be loving for 5 years, 6 years, and they get married. Within 3 months, they get problem and they go to the divorce. Oh, what were they doing all these 5 years, 6 years without knowing each other? And today, all the youngsters are, most of them, are always are educated, at least to read and write. So they need to read more books about the psychology of man and woman. For example, John Gray, a great author, psychologist, he says, man from Mars and woman from Venus. Have you seen that book? Yes. Man from Mars and woman from Venus. It is a counseling psychological tips for the married couple. It is as though man comes from Mars, a planet, and woman comes from another planet, Venus. So both are entirely different, aliens to each other. Unfortunately, both come to the earth to live. If they live in Mars, at least man would have been happy. If they live in Venus, at least the woman would have been happy. Both come to the earth and live, and both are unhappy, he says. So the point is how we need to understand each other, and the psychological and emotional makeup setup, all these things are different. And Jesus says, let no man put asunder. And there are not only man and woman put asunder, there are so many other forces also from within, from outside. And that's why Jesus made it clear to make it a point that what God has united, let man not put asunder. Anyway, I don't want to speak more on this marriage and wedding. What I wanted to highlight is this one. Children coming to him and the disciples stopped him. And Jesus says, let the children come to me. And this also reveals the nature and the personality of Jesus. Children come spontaneously to him, and so much so the disciples stopped them, which means they must be coming very often to disturb, within quotes, Jesus, and too many children must have been coming. Now, if children spontaneously come, what sort of personality Jesus would have been? He must have been very lively person who can make some magics with his hands, some faces with his appearance, and he may tell a lot of stories and jokes. So children love to be with him. Oftentimes we forget the this aspect, joyful aspect of Jesus, maybe because we find most of the pictures of Jesus with the thorns on the head or the crucifixion, etc. So we think that Jesus also must be a very sad person, always worried about the salvation, etc. Of course, he was worried about the salvation, but he also must have been a very joyful person, cracking a lot of jokes. This modern picture of Jesus will be showing us a smiling face, laughing Jesus, etc. And some people don't feel comfortable to look at this kind of picture of Jesus because it is not appealing for them. So Jesus must be really lively person who cracks jokes and makes what's it, magics with his hands and so on. That's why children love to him. But the disciples stop them. Jesus says, do not hinder them. Let them come to me. So the question is how we, the elders, teachers, parents, take the children to Jesus. And if Jesus is not saying, we should not just show the way to Jesus, but we should take the children to Jesus. Today, the modern youth and children, they need to see a guide in us, not a signpost. Signpost will not move with the people. It will be there in a one place and show the sign. Towards this side, Madurai 120 kilometers. This side, Chennai 320 kilometers. Only the signboard. Sign gives the way and gives some information. The signpost will not walk with the travelers, with the tourists. Whereas a guide will accompany the tourists. If you go to a tourist historical place somewhere, the guide will be there. He or she walks along with the visitors, along with the tourists to each place to explain. Today, children need such guide in our lives, not a signpost. And very often today, the modern generation lack good model. Lack a good model, unfortunately, in the families, in the parents, maybe in the teachers, in the priests and the nuns also. That is why they are looking for their models in the sports world and cine world. Unfortunately, a cinema fellow hero may be a good fellow in acting, but he may not be a good person in life. Similarly, a sports hero may be a good person in the field of sports, need not be a good moral person. But these people, these youngsters, they think that this cinema hero, film hero, or sports hero is their model for their lives, and that is not enough for their moral life. Therefore, my dear friends, we as teachers, as elders, as priests and nuns, we have the utmost duty to take the children to God, to teach and to live and to show by example the values of the gospel and the values of Christianity and the values of heaven, so that the children can imbibe by seeing that being lived out. Because that's why they say, what you teach them, they may forget. But what you inculcate by living, they will never forget. Once the children leave our campus, are we producing real children who are afraid of God in their lives and who are responsible citizens for the nation and above all a fine human person? And that is possible only when we live out the values of the gospel. Let us think about it and ask for God's grace that we may be guide to the children, not just signposts in their lives.